back to Junie B. Jones and a Little Monkey Business by Barbara Park. Chapter 7. Some School Words. I wore my brand new things back to room 9. They looked very beautiful on me, except my new pink high tops were too big, and my feet were very sliding around in there. Before I sat down, I looked at Lucille's red chair, and then I tapped on her. "I'm sorry, Lucille," I said, "but red is my favorite color, and so I would like that chair of yours, I think." Lucille looked very upset at me, "But red is my favorite color too, Junie B." I patted her. "I know, Lucille," I said very nicely, "but you still must give it to me. It's the rules." And so she did. "Now I'm the winner for sure, aren't I?" she asked. I made my shoulders go up and down. "I don't know, Lucille," I said. "That Grace said she might have some cash in her purse." After that, Mrs. passed out construction paper, and we cut out autumn leaves for our bulletin board. Autumn is the school word for fall. We sprinkled our leaves with shiny glitter. Also, I sprinkled glitter in my hair, and I pasted some to my eyebrows. Then Mrs. confiscated my shiny glitter jar. Confiscate is the school word for yanked it right out of my hand. Just then, Mrs. Gutzman knocked on our door, and she came into the room with our milk and cookies. "Hooray! Hooray for Mrs. Gutzman!" I shouted at her. "Guess what, Mrs. Gutzman? I get 3 snacks today. See, I have 3 snack tickets." Mrs. walked over to my chair. She stared down at me. "How did you get 2 extra tickets, Junie B?" she asked. "Did you find them on the playground?" Then she took my 2 extra tickets away, and she held them way high in the air. "Did anyone lose their snack tickets today?" she said to the class. "No," I hollered. "Those are my tickets. Lucille and Grace gave them to me." Mrs. raised her eyebrows. "Lucille, did you give Junie B your snack ticket today?" she asked. "Yes," said Lucille. "That's because she made me." "No, I did not, Lucille," I said. "I did not make you." Mrs. said, "Be quiet," to me. She folded her arms. "Grace, did you give your snack ticket to Junie B too?" Then that Grace started to cry because she thought she was in trouble. Mrs. tapped her foot. "Please come get your snack ticket, Grace," she said. And so then that Grace walked to my table in just her socks, and Mrs. made squinty eyes at her. "Where are your shoes, Grace?" she asked. That's when big baby Grace started crying very harder, and she pointed at her shoes. Mrs. peeped under my table. "Junie B. Jones," she hollered, "why are you wearing Grace's shoes?" Mrs. sounded dangerous. "Because," I said, kind of scared. "Because why?" said Mrs. "Because it's the rules," I explained. Then Mrs. bended down very close to my ear. "What rules?" "The rules for who gets to be the first one to see my monkey brother," I said. Mrs. rolled her eyes way back in her head. "Put your own shoes back on and come with me, young lady," she said. Then me and her walked into the hall together. Let me show you a picture with Mrs. Gutzman. So, walked into the hall together, and she made me tell her what happened on the playground. After that, I had to give Lucille back the locket and the sweater with the Scotty dog on it, and I had to give Grace back the real, genuine, fake ring from cereal. Then Mrs. wrote a note, and she said for me to take it to the office. The office is where the boss of the school lives. His name is Principal. "Yes, but I don't think I would like to go down there today," I said, "or else my mother might get mad at me." Mrs. tapped her foot. Then she took hold of my hand. "Let's go, young lady. March," she said. And so then me and her marched to the office. March is the school word for pulled me way too fast. Chapter 8. Me and Principal. The school office is a scary place. Ours is not at our school. It has loud ringing phones and a typing lady who is a stranger, and a row of chairs where bad kids sit. Mrs. plopped me in a blue one. Wait here, she said. Yeah, only I'm not bad, I whispered to just myself. And then I put my sweater on my head so nobody would see me in the bad kid's chair. After that, I peeked down my long sweater sleeve and I saw Mrs. out of my hand hole. She was knocking on Principal's door. Then she went in there, and my heart got very pumpy because she was tattling on me, I think. After a while, she came out again. Principal came with her. Principal has a baldy head, which looks like rubber. Also, he has big hands and heavy shoes and a suit made out of black. Could I see you in my office for a minute, Junie B? He said. And so then I had to go in there all by myself, and I sat on a big wooden chair, and Principal made me take my sweater off my head. So what's this all about? He said. Why do you think your teacher brought you down here today? Because, I said very quiet. Because why? Said Principal. Because that Grace shot off her big fat mouth, I explained. Then Principal folded his arms, and he said for me to start at the beginning. And so I did. First, I told him about how I spent the night at my grandpa's house. We had delicious waffles for breakfast, I said, and I had 5 of them, only my grandpa didn't know where I had put them all, except I put them way in here, and then I opened my mouth and showed Principal where my waffles went. After that, I told him how my Grandma Miller came home from the hospital and she told me I had a monkey brother, for really and honest and truly. And so then I told the children at show and tell, I said. And at recess, Lucille and that Grace started giving me lots of pretty stuff because they wanted to be first to see them. Except too bad for me, I said, because when we came inside, Mrs. found out about the snack tickets, and then that Grace shot off her big fat mouth about her shoes, and so I got marched down here, and I had to sit in the bad kid's chair. And then I smoothed my skirt. The end, I said nicely. Principal rubbed his head that looked like rubber. Junie B, maybe we should go back to when your grandmother came home from the hospital, he said. Can you remember exactly what she said about your brother being a monkey? I scrunched my eyes real tight to remember. Yes, I said. Grandma Miller said he was the cutest little monkey she ever saw. Then Principal closed his eyes and he said kind of quiet, now I get it. After that, he smiled a little bit. You see, Junie B, when your grandmother called your brother a little monkey, she didn't mean he was a real monkey. She just meant that he was, well, cute. I know he's cute, I said. That's because all monkeys are cute, except for I don't like the big kind that can kill you. Principal shook his head. No, Junie B, that's not what I mean. I mean your brother isn't really a monkey after all. He's just a little baby boy. I made a frowny face. No, he is not a little baby boy, I told him. He's a real, alive baby monkey with black furry fur and long fingers and toes. You can ask my Grandma Miller if you don't believe me. And so guess what Principal did then? He called her, that's what. He called Grandma Miller right on the phone. And then he talked to her. And then I talked to her too. Hey, Grandma, I said very shouty. Guess what just happened down here? Principal said that my baby brother isn't a real alive monkey, only he is. Because you told me that, right? Remember? You said he was really a monkey for really and honest and truly. And then Grandma Miller said that she was very sorry. But she didn't mean he was a real monkey. She just meant he was cute, just like Principal explained to me. And so then I felt very droopy inside. Yeah, only what about all of his black hair and his long fingers and toes? I said. And what about his bed that looks like a cage and the wallpaper with his jungle friends on it? But Grandma Miller kept on saying that my new brother was just a regular cute baby. And so finally, I didn't want to talk to her anymore and I hanged up the phone. Then I bended my head way down and my eyes got a little bit of wet in them. Darn it, I said very quiet. After that, Principal gave me a tissue and he said, I'm sorry to me. Then he held my hand and me and him walked back to room 9. Chapter 9, Pigs and Ducks and Stuff. Principal went into room 9 with me. Then he clapped his giant hands together. Boys and girls, may I please have your attention, he said. I would like to explain what happened during show and tell today. It's about Junie B. Jones and her new baby brother. Just then that Jim jumped right up out of his chair. He's not a monkey, is he? He shouted very loud. I knew it. I knew he wasn't a monkey. I made a big fist at him. How would you like this up your nose, Jim? I hollered. Then Principal frowned at me, and so I smiled. I don't like that guy, I said nicely. After that, Principal took a big breath. Boys and girls, there's a good reason why Junie B told you that her baby brother was a monkey, he said. Yeah, it was all my Grandma Miller's fault, I interrupted, because she told me that my baby brother was a little monkey, only she didn't mean that he was a real little monkey. She just meant he was cute. Only who in the heck knew that? Principal made another frown at me, and then he talked some more. You see, boys and girls, he said, sometimes adults say things that can be very confusing to children. Like, what if you heard me talking about a lucky duck? You might think I was talking about a real live duck, but lucky duck just means a lucky person. Right, said Mrs. And when we call someone a busy bee, we don't mean he's a real bee, we just mean he's a hard worker. Hey, I just thought of another one, I said very excited. A dumb bunny isn't a real live bunny either. It's just a plain old dumb guy. Then my friend Lucille raised her hand. Oh, I've got one too, she said. Sometimes my Nana calls my daddy a couch potato, only he's not a real potato. He's just lazy. Yeah, and I'm not a big pig, said my new boyfriend Ricardo, but my mom says I eat like one. After that, a whole bunch of other kids said they eat like big pigs too. Only a boy named Donald said he eats like a horse. And crybaby William eats like a bird. And then it was time for the bell to ring. And so me and Principal said bye-bye to each other, and I went to my seat. And then I gave Lucille back her red chair. She was very nice to me. I'm sorry that your brother isn't a real monkey, Junie B, she said. Thank you, Lucille, I said. I'm sorry that your daddy isn't a real potato, too. After that, the bell rang for us to go home. And so me and Lucille and that Grace held hands, and we walked outside together. Only a very wonderful thing happened, and it's called, I heard my mother's voice. Junie B, over here, honey. Daddy and I are over here. Then I looked in the parking lot, and I saw her. And so I runned to her speedy quick, and then me and Mother hugged and hugged because I hadn't seen her for a very whole day. Then my daddy got out of the car, and he had a yellow blanket in his arms. And guess what was in that thing? My new baby brother, that's what. He was very teeny and pinkish, except his head had a lot of black hair on it. I touched it. It felt fuzzy. Just then, Ricardo walked by, and he saw my teeny brother. Cool hair, he said. I smiled very big. I know it, Ricardo, I said. And guess what else? He doesn't even smell like PU. And after that, I got in the car. And I told Mother about Lucille's locket, and she said, maybe I could get a locket too, and I could put my brother's teeny head in there. Yes, and I would also like some pink high tops, please, I said, very polite. Maybe, said Mother. Oh boy, I said, 'cause maybe doesn't mean no, that's why. And so then I lifted up the blanket and I peeped at my baby brother one more time. So, what do you think of him, Junie B? Said Mother. I smiled very big. I think he's the cutest little monkey I ever saw, I said. Then Mother laughed, and I laughed too. The end.